Good morning, y'all, or good night. I really don't know. Oh, well, today we'll be talking about the Anglo-Saxon era, the time period where bravery, religion, and leadership was all honored. It shaped the way society for years to come. And to start off, we'll be looking at the timeline. The Anglo-Saxon lasted from 410 to 1066. At 449, the Anglos and Saxons first arrived in Britain, and through the 590s to 700, the Anglo-Saxons converted to Christianity over time gradually. And I think it was Augustine, one of the kings, that forced them to do that. But through 700 to 750, Beowulf was written, since we don't know the exact time it was written. And at 787, the Viking invasions begin. And at the 878 establishment of the Danelaw, we'll be getting more into that later on. And 937, the battlement of Braunbrach. And 957 through 975, England united under King Edgar. And 1016, I don't know how to say his name, but it's literally Cunt, becomes King of England. And 1016 through 1042, England ruled by Danish kings. And at 1066, the Norman conquest begins. And now we'll be passing to you two, Fonza, so Shui can explain a lot more in depth.
Thank you, Giovanni. And let's get into this video. As you may or may not know, the Anglo-Saxons were actually a group of farmer warriors who lived in Britain thousands of years ago. The Anglo-Saxons originally originated from Northern Europe, places like the Netherlands, Germany, and Denmark. They were constructed of three major tribes: the Angles, the Saxons, and the Jews. But where did the name Anglo-Saxon actually come from? The Angles and the Saxons were the largest tribe, making it known to be Anglo-Saxons. Now let's talk about the very important people of this era. The first person that I'll be talking about is King Ethelbert of Kent, and he was the King of Kent, aka Kentish, from the year 589 AD to 616 AD. Ethelbert was the first king of Anglo-Saxon to turn away from paganism to become a Christian. Paganism is the belief of multiple gods/goddesses. A person whose religion is paganism means they are not religious, and their religion is neither Christianity, Islam, or Judaism. King Ethelbert was actually the first to write the Law of Code, aka Law of Ethelbert, in English, Old English, actually. After the death of his first wife, Bertha, in 601 AD, he took on a second wife, Men. He later died on February 24th, 616 AD. The cause of his death is unknown, but he was later succeeded by his son, Eadbald, this dude right here. That is not all to evil. After succeeding his father, he then reverted back to paganism. But that is not the worst part. He scared the Roman clerks by marrying his father's second wife, which was totally against the rules. Obviously. I mean, imagine your son taking your wife after you die. But I guess the good part that came out of it, he reverted back to Christianity. The next person on my list is King Alfred the Great. He was the king of Weston, aka West Saxon, from 871 to 886 AD. He was often considered as the first king of England. He was the fifth son of King Oswulf of Wexen. In the Battle of Edington, his army defeated the Danes and forced them back into Chippenham. Alfred succeeded in freeing London and made the Treaty of Wedmore with Guthrum and the East Anglians in 886 AD.
All right. And on another note, Beowulf was written by an unknown writer, and it was simply known as the Beowulf poet. And the poem itself represents a culture during this time period, in which is the hero being courageous, being strong, his generosity, and his desire to be famous, and loyalty as well. This helped set in place a social structure in which it was very hierarchical, in which people were ruled over by kings, and they're basically somewhat like slaves, not really. To further explain this topic, I'm going to pass this to Tiffany.
As the ancestor of modern English, Old English was the backbone of the language, and it was wildly different when you compare the two. Old English began in the mid-5th century, stemming from the home country of the Anglo-Saxons in England. There wasn't any clear idea when Old English began or serious development for the language until Danish Vikings continuously invaded Anglo-Saxon England. As a result, Latin literacy began dropping, and church officials grew worried, considering that a lot of their documents were filled with Latin. So, as King Alfred the Great, he tried to figure out a way for his students to learn in Latin in order to read religious documents. His solution ultimately boiled down to this: any student that excelled in reading and writing Old English gets to pass and move on to learning how to read and write Latin. Well, he certainly did a good job mass teaching the entire country. In the amount of existing English texts from 600 to 1150 AD, there were over 3 million words from Old English that were added to linguistic history. Honestly, just being able to learn the Old English language is a feat in of itself. The structure of the Old English language is a lot more rigid. There are 4 dialects of Old English: Northumbrian, Mercian, Kentish, and West Saxon. 4 different dialects fitting in 4 different regions of Anglo-Saxon England. Although most of the documents were written in West Saxon, spelling was never fully standardized, with each word spelled phonetically from each dialect, not to mention unique words for each tense of a verb, like help, helpin, help, holpin, and holpin. At the very least, they had an alphabet constructed from Latin script. It's all thanks to the Christian missionaries introducing it into the country. Eventually, education of Old English led to amazing literary works, such as Beowulf, a pivotal epic poem in literature. Dating back to 700 to 750 AD, Beowulf was heavily influenced by Germanic religion and mythology, including the code of loyalty to the tribe and vengeance towards enemies. In fact, Beowulf probably played one of the largest roles in the progression of poetry. It used most of the 30,000 lines of existing Old English poetry. There are some other literary works that had a significant impact in history, such as the Historia Ecclesiastical and the Caedmon's Hymn, which documented the events of Anglo-Saxon to Norman England and described the spread of Christianity respectively. However, the span of Old English ended sometime after the Norman conquest, thanks to William the Conqueror. He only knew French and was unable to learn Old English no matter how hard he tried. With a little bit of French mixed into the language, Old English was evolving into another form. Guess English and French naturally blend well together.
Look. Okay, going into the topic, we're going to talk about religion and how it helps shape society. I'm going to pass this to Marilu, and she'll be enlightening us about this topic.
Hi, my name is Marilu, and I'll be talking about the religion portion of Anglo-Saxon era. So little is known about the exact nature of Anglo-Saxons' religious belief, since they were largely illiterate and passed down their myth and tradition orally. So fun fact, warriors would gather around the mead halls where poems or songs were recited for hours or even days as a form of entertainment or ceremonial occasion. Early Anglo-Saxons were pagans, which is defined as a person holding religious beliefs other than those of the main world religion. But as time passed, they gradually converted into Christianity. Each pagan god controlled a particular part of everyday life. Some examples include Woden, who was considered the king of Anglo-Saxon gods; Baladur, god of immortality; Ostray, goddess of birth or spring; Frigg, goddess of love; Hel, goddess of death; Loki, god of cunning; Saknot, god of family; Thor or Thor, god of thunder; Tew, god of war; Wayland, god of metalworking. So, fun fact, the Anglo-Saxon god gave their name to the days of the week. So, Monday was Moon Day, the day of the moon; Tuesday was Tew Day, god of war; Wednesday was Wooden Day, the king god; Thursday was Thor Day, god of thunder; Friday was Frigg Day, goddess of love, who was also wife to Woden; Saturday was Saturn Day, the day of Roman god Saturn; and Sunday was Sun Day, the day of the sun. Anglo-Saxons were superstitious and believed in lucky charms. They thought that rhymes, potions, stones, and jewels would protect them from evil spirits or sickness. Well, in 597, the Pope in Rome decided it was time that the Anglo-Saxons in Britain heard about Christianity, in hopes to persuade the Anglo-Saxons to become Christians. Let's just say the Pope sent someone really good at persuading. That person was a monk named Augustine, who was in charge of persuading the King Althbert of Kent to become a Christian. Gradually, many Anglo-Saxons converted to Christianity, and the new churches and monasteries were built. Christianity meant the return of learning to Ireland, as well as the beginning of political and legal civilization based on the art of reading and writing and Latin alphabet. Literature such as epic poems shows the influence of Christianity in pagan belief, such as the freedom of decision making and fate handling matters of life and death. A clash of Christians' belief and pagan religion are key in Anglo-Saxon literature. Anglo-Saxon people were either Christians or pagan in their religion. Christians believed in one God in heaven. Pagans believed in many gods and in fate, which meant everything in life was predetermined and nobody had control over it. Examples of this religious conflict are in Beowulf. The story Beowulf has its root in pagan Saxon past, but as time the epic was written down, almost all Anglo-Saxons had converted to Christianity. As a result, the Beowulf poems it paints her resolve his Christian belief with the often quite unchristian behavior of his characters. This led to frequent aside about God, hell, and heaven, and to many allusions to the Old Testament throughout the work. In the end, however, the conflict proves simply irresolvable. Beowulf doesn't lead a particularly good life by Christian standards, but the poet cannot help but revere him. Though some of Beowulf's values, such as his dedication to his people and his willingness to give out treasure, overlap with Christian values, he ultimately lives for the preservation of earthly glory after death, not only for entrance into heaven.
That wraps up our Anglo-Saxon era, in which there were Vikings and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, it just basically helps it shapes society from over time. Thank you for watching. We'll see y'all next time.